Okay.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the PMIGLC dinner, or actually forum event. We're glad to have you with us this evening, and we'd like to thank you for coming. This evening's forum will run about 50 minutes, and we'd like to let you know that immediately afterwards, we'd like to invite you to dinner. For those of you that are staying with us for the dinner meeting, we have a couple of great presentations this evening. I'm glad that you were able to carve some time out of your schedules to join for this kickoff event. This evening, Marcelino Sanchez, who's the Executive Director for SmartChange LLC, will be giving us some perspective on what organizational change and being a change agent is all about from a practitioner's level. And at a project manager's perspective, obviously we see a lot of change resistance within the organizations we serve and perhaps the clients that we work with. And he's going to be giving us some really good strategies as far as how we can actually work and facilitate discussion and focus within our project teams and our clients that can help overcome some of that organizational inertia that is definitely something that holds us back from hitting the finish line when we'd like to. Marcelino has a lot of background and experience as both a trainer, a coach, and a practitioner. He's actually worked throughout the world with engagements in both Latin America, North America, Europe, and the Middle East. And he's also very well versed with Six Sigma, lean practices. He's managed change agents at all levels, including chief executives, managers, project teams, task forces, and he's trained hundreds of change practitioners in a variety of industries throughout the world. So with that, I'll introduce you to Marcelino. Would you please extend a warm welcome?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Glad to be here. Good evening.
Good evening.
You know, I was introduced to the world of project management many years ago, early in my career. My introduction to project management went something like this. I was part of a training and development group within an HR function, obviously, for a DoD company, a company that developed aircraft for the Department of Defense. And this project was, the objective was to replace a timekeeping system, the existing timekeeping system that they had been using for many years and that they had developed in-house. Some of you may have participated in a project like that. It can be very messy, especially when you're replacing a homegrown system that has many years and a lot of different interfaces with all kinds of other systems. To make the long story short, I went through 3 project managers, and in the end, the project was killed. Okay? Yes. By the way, these 3 project managers were not working together. They were one after the other, right? And anyway, so the company in the end decided to walk away with the losses in the millions of dollars. And still not unusual of a lot of IT projects where things go wrong. And by the way, there was no single individual to blame. Okay, this was not about somebody doing something wrong. This was about a story about an organizational dynamic that exists in many places. And I think you may have seen some of that, right? Where there's a great solution, but the organization rejects the solution, sort of like a body rejects a good organ when it's transplanted into the body, right? The organ and the body have to be compatible. Well, in a similar way, solutions in organizations have to be compatible. So we're talking today about leadership and resistance, and I put resistance, I would say, in quotation marks because the label itself we're going to talk about. I would like to reframe for you this concept of resistance. So let's get started. My goal is threefold. One is to leave you with a better understanding as to what organizational change is all about, and a greater appreciation for the human aspect of change, the human factor, which is what throws us off more often than not. Number 2, to again give you a new framework, a new way of thinking about resistance, and 3, give you or leave you with some practical ideas of how to go about addressing some of the issues that you encounter probably day to day. All right, so let's begin with a practical exercise. If you can, take out a pen or a pencil and a piece of paper. If you have something to take notes with, just take out a pen or a pencil and a piece of paper. I'm going to give you 30 seconds. And in those 30 seconds, I'm going to ask you to write your first name, only your first name, Ken, Matt, whatever your name is, first name only, as many times as you can. Okay, in 30 seconds. Okay? And then when I say stop, you're going to stop. Now, ideally I would have a flip chart here. We don't have a flip chart, but we'll make it work. We'll make it work. Okay? So, at the count of go, or 3, you're going to go, and then you're going to stop on 30. All right? Ready? 1, 2, 3, go. 30 seconds, as many times as you can, of course, so that people can read. 30 seconds. Okay, you're about 15 seconds. About 15 seconds. All right. You have about 5 seconds left. When I say stop, you're going to stop. Ready, and stop. All right, now stop. Count how many times you were able to write your first name, and then just kind of yell it out. Let's see. Ken, would you do me a favor? Could you kind of keep mental track of the numbers, and then calculate the mean? Just kind of eyeball the mean. Okay? Just imagine that you are writing it down. All right. How many? How many times? 12. 16. 14. 16.
12.
27. What's your name?
Tim.
Nice. Thank you for running the exercise for me, Tim. How many times?
12.
12.
16.
11.
20. 11. Thank you. 23.
22.
15. 22. 16. Okay. Couple more. 19. One more.
20.
20 and 10. Okay. Ken, roughly about,
16, 17.
16, 17, somewhere in there? All right. Thank you, Ken. Another round. Okay. Same resources, same task, same time, same piece of paper, same pencil or pen that you have. Okay, same task. This time, change hands. Okay, just change hands. Yes, come on, change hands. Okay. Okay. When I say 3, you go. Ready? 1, 2, and 3. Go. 30 seconds.
Read legibility.
Of course, yes. Same quality, same quantity.
That should be a doctor.
Yeah, if you're a doctor, you're good. I hope there are no doctors here, sorry. Okay, you have about 10 seconds to go. I'm feeling generous today, so I'm going to give you an extra 10 seconds. An extra 10 seconds, yes. Okay. Okay, so you have about 10 seconds left. And when I say so, you're going to stop. And then you're going to count the number of finished product. Ready? Okay, stop. Stop. All right. Count. Can you keep track for me? All right. 10. 14. 9. 10, 7. 8. 7. 5. 9. 8. 5. 19. 19. Wow. No. From 27 to 19. Okay. Couple more. 6.
X.
One more. 9 and 8. All right. Ken?
Take Tim's out, it's about 8 or 9.
All right, we have an outlier.
I don't belong.
Okay, about 8 or 9. And the first one was what, 16, 17? Okay, now do we have any statisticians here? Any statisticians? All right, in statistics there's something called a t-test. You know what a t-test is?
Yep.
A t-test is a test of means. It tests the means of two populations or two distributions, right? And the purpose is to see if the means are the same or different. In this case, we don't need a t-test to know that the mean of the first round is higher than the mean of the second round. Okay, so let's look at this. What happened to the quantity of our production here?
It went down.
It went down. What happened to the quality of the production?
It went down.
It went down. Okay. What happened to the level of effort to produce less and worse quality?
It went
It went up. It went up. Now, you can't manage a business like this. right? When your quantity is going down, your quality is going down, and the level of effort to produce worse quality goes up. That is a recipe for disaster. It goes right down to the bottom line. Now, I can guarantee you that no accountant, in fact, no project manager, has a write-off on the financials that says loss due to crappy implementation. Right? We always write off other kinds of losses, but not due to change. Now, what was the change that we introduced here? All I had you do was change hands. Just like, let's now use a different system, right? Not the one that I'm used to, that I've been used to for a lot of years, but a different one, a different number of clicks, a different business process, a different way of looking at data. In fact, different data to begin with. And then we're surprised that we see this. Do you see some of this sometimes in your projects? Every day. All right. So here's the first practical application of this. Anytime you introduce a change, anytime, you're going to see a dip in the organizational performance of the business. And you can measure it any way you want. Absenteeism, productivity, quality. You can look at any number of measures, and you're going to see a dip in organizational performance. The question, folks, is not whether or not we're going to see the dip. The question is how deep and how long. That's the only question. How deep and how long. So it follows that if we're to do anything at all around change and managing the transition of change, is make sure that this curve is as flat and as short as possible. It's about transition management. It's not about avoiding the dip. It's about making it as painless as possible. Okay? So, change happens, right? In this case, I had you change hands. It could be anything else. It could be any of the projects that you are introducing into your organizations. Okay? Change happens, and usually the change comes right along with a lot of questions, a lot of doubts, a lot of fears, or a lot of concerns. Right? So people begin asking questions. Well, why? What's wrong with the old one? And why not something else? Why do we choose this particular vendor? Right? And why don't we, do something else instead? So you see a lot of questions. So that is what we call the shock and denial stage of this transitionary period. Did you notice what the reaction was when I asked you to change hands? What was the reaction? Right? Now, this is kind of just a practical exercise. But in an organization, how does that look? What does that look like?
Disengagement.
Disengagement. Okay. What else?
Fear,
Anger, right? People talking about it instead of doing the work, they're talking about it and moaning and complaining and all that, right?
Yeah, resistance.
That's right. What's that?
Resistance.
Resistance. Avoidance. A lot of apprehension. Yes. So we'll come back to all of those things that you're mentioning, because again, this is the shock and the denial phase of this transition. Okay. This gives way to low productivity, of course. Low productivity is going to sit in sooner or later. Okay. And usually this is what we label resistance. We'll come back to that label a little later. For us to be able to start our way up this curve, clarity and understanding must develop. Otherwise, you will never come out. Okay? And that's what we call the acceptance phase. Next comes the exploration phase, where people begin to look for new solutions, to try them out. They say, okay, all right, the new system. Okay, well, I guess I'm going to give it a shot, because I realize that fighting it is not really a good option. I'm going to try it out, give it a chance. And then the last phase is the performing phase, when the new mindset and the new behavior driven by the change is now fully adopted by people in the organization. A lot of projects never achieve this result. You see, I mean, the goal here is to achieve a different organizational performance performance level done at the beginning. That's why we introduced change. We would not introduce a new system unless we were expecting a gain in the end. And it follows that this cost right here is part of the equation, and that the ROI up here is gonna show up. The fact is, the research is clear on one thing: the numbers vary. The numbers say anywhere between 60 to 80, maybe 85% of all large-scale change fails to meet the stated objectives. That's not a good record. That is not a good track record. Okay? So everybody agrees, McKinsey, Accenture, IBM, a lot of those big firms have done a lot of research. Okay? Academics have done a lot of research that corroborates the story. Most change never actually achieves that goal. Okay? A lot of them, like in the case of the project that I talked about, they walked away somewhere over here. And they continue to limp along. Imagine the loss. Imagine the real loss, right? People become disengaged, disenfranchised, not to mention all of the money that was poured into the project. Now, let's come back to this issue of resistance and acceptance, because oftentimes we kind of equate those two things, okay? Let me introduce what I call the iceberg of resistance. Let me walk you through a mental exercise, because it's really not practical to do it here. What I do in some of the workshops that we do, where people are sitting on round tables, I ask them to do something very simple. I say, close your eyes, and when I say go, you are going to stand up and walk out the door and out towards the parking lot. Yes, that's exactly what I get. Yeah, right. And I say, no, really, for reals. And so I say, okay, close your eyes now. Don't close them. I'm just describing the experiment. This is just a mental experiment. Nobody do anything that I'm just saying, okay? And so I ask people to close their eyes, and then I say, go. What would you guess happened or happens about 100% of the time?
Hit the wall.
Nobody has hit the wall yet. Okay, a lot of people don't move. How would you react? What would you do? Move slowly. Don't move. Get up. What else? Who would actually get up? Okay, some people do get up and start going like this, kind of slowly, right? They hesitate. Most people, let's see, I've done this so many times. I could probably run statistics on this, but most people, about 50% of the people, never actually get up. Or if they do so just kind of like this. By the way, I stopped the exercise after about 1 second, or 2 at the most, for obvious reasons. I'm insured, I'm fully insured, but the point is this. The point is this. When we ask people to do something like that it's very new to them. I mean, nobody walks around with their eyes closed. Now, by the way, if you are born without eyesight, that's a no-brainer, because that's how you operate every day. But most of us are not, right? And so when we introduce a change that drastic, people all of a sudden go, I don't want to do that. Why would you not want to do that? Well, so I'm afraid of bumping into my neighbor, right? I don't want to trip over a cable. I don't know where I'm going. The risk is too high. Right? Now, there are some people who kind of think it's fun and they want to get going. To them, it's a challenge. And so you have the range of people who want to get going all the way to those who don't. But the bulk of the people are very, very hesitant. And to describe them or to label them as resistors becomes kind of offensive. Right? I mean, I don't know about you, but I don't think resistance is a positive label. We'll come back to that label in just a minute. Okay. So, but usually what we see is no action, right? People challenging the whole exercise, questioning, why are we doing this? What's the purpose of this? Delaying, right? They don't get up in time. They kind of wait it out. And in fact, a lot of people don't even close their eyes. Even after I tell them, no, for real, I am serious. Close your eyes. A lot of people refuse to close their eyes. Okay. So that's what we see in organizations. Right? People refusing, people just totally refuting, or being very ambivalent, very hesitant. What we don't see is the bottom of the iceberg. What we don't see is that what people are reacting on is their fears. They're afraid of something, right? Maybe they're confused. Or maybe they lack information, okay? Or maybe the information that we are giving them is conflicting information. Maybe they don't have a sense of need. They don't see the point of why we're doing what we're doing. Maybe the leadership is not really doing a good job at leading the change. Or maybe people just feel unsure about the whole thing. Okay? There's a concern for safety. Maybe they just feel in the dark, and therefore there's a lack of confidence. You know, can I do this? Do I have the actual skills to do this? Can I operate in a new environment? That's what people react to. But this is what we see. Now, if we operate and if we intervene at this level, what are we likely to do? If I'm a manager, if I am a CEO, if I'm the top boss, and this is all I see, what am I likely to do?
Discipline, authority,
Discipline, exert my authority. When in reality, what should I be doing? Addressing the issue, addressing the root cause. Make sense? So this is the next practical concept for you. Whenever you see what we term resistance, ask yourself, okay, am I looking at the top of the iceberg, or am I looking beneath the water, beneath the surface, and am I understanding the real issues? If we address the symptoms, we'll never get anywhere. Okay? It's like me telling my son, who doesn't like to clean up his room, clean up your room, clean up your room, clean up your room. Right? When there's something more fundamental than that, maybe I'm not cleaning up my room myself. And he just doesn't get it. Why I am insisting on something that he doesn't see me doing. That's just one example. There could be many other issues. Okay? So that's the iceberg of resistance. So beware of what's beneath the surface. Alright. Now, to the label. When we say resistance, what comes to mind? When you hear that word, what comes to mind?
Stubborn.
Say it out loud.
Stubborn.
Stubborn. What else?
Pushing back.
Pushing back.
Unwillingness to change.
Unwillingness to change.
refusal,
Got refusal. What else?
Abstinence.
What is it?
Abstinence.
Okay. Obstinance. What else? Is that a good label? Would you like to be called resistant? Raise your hand if you would like to have a label here on your back that says resistor or barrier or blocker. Very diminishing, right? Very demeaning. I hear clients use that label all the time, liberally, to refer to people. We're not talking about things. We're talking about people, but we're talking about people as if they were things. Okay? Now, this is usually what comes to mind when we use the word resistance. In fact, when I was looking for a picture, and you type in Google resistor or resistance, guess what comes up? And this has never happened to me. 100% of all of the pictures that I saw were about this an Xbox game called, I don't know what the name of the game is called, but it had the same game images. I don't even know what's called. Do you know? Does anybody know?
What, tug of war?
I don't know, but it was a war game, and guns and shooting and all that. That's what came up. Well, there's no surprise then that when we label people resistors, we're labeling them with a very negative meaning, right? So, number one about resistance. Resistance is a label. Resistance is a label that we use to blame other people for our inability to influence them. Okay? Resistance is a label that we use to blame other people for our own inability to influence their behavior. I know it all too well, folks. I am a dad. I have 5 children. I know exactly what that looks like. And in the final analysis, it's really all about what I'm not doing right as a father to influence the behavior of my children. Of course, they have a choice, but I do too. And the same thing applies in project teams. The same thing applies if you're a departmental manager, if you're the CEO. Okay. Number 2, people don't really resist change. What people resist is being changed. How many of you have smartphones? How many of you have smartphones? Okay. How many of you had smartphones 7 years ago. Very few. Okay? You see what I mean? We don't resist change. In fact, we welcome change. I bet you nobody forced you to go buy your smartphone. Right? You kind of fell in love with it once you saw how cool it was or whatever. But if the company, if your employer were to come and say, hey, we're all going to use these new Windows 8 phones, somebody would throw a fit. Change the brand. You can change the brand, whatever brand. Okay? Why? Because nobody likes to be forced to change. So people don't always resist change. What they resist is being changed. Now, my mother-in-law, she doesn't have email yet. She does not have a smartphone, and she will go to her grave without one, probably. Okay, so are there people who really do not like change? Yes. Okay, but most of the time, what people resist is not change itself, but being changed. Now, so here's a practical application. So what do we do? What do we do to influence others to change? Let me show you the math. The math works something like this. If we know and if we understand what people perceive as a loss or as a negative to them, right, from the change, if we know what they perceive as a loss, then we can minimize it. Yes? So if we can minimize the loss and if we can maximize the wins for them, we're more likely to see the kind of support that we are trying to get from them. Now this is a very simple concept, but it's not easy at all to apply. But it all begins with understanding people, right? Going to the individual and understanding, okay, what is it that you see as a potential win here, and what's in it for you, right? The famous whistle, what's in it for you? Well, conversely, what do you stand to lose? What are you most afraid of? What are you concerned about? And if we are able to have that conversation with enough people to get to know what are the fears, what are the concerns, then we can do something to minimize that and to maximize the wins. Then we're a lot more likely to see the kind of support that we are hoping to get. Does that make sense? All right. Okay, so that's about resistance. Now, I told you I was going to introduce you to a new framework, a different framework, perhaps. Okay. Again, please leave this concept that people resist change. Okay, I hear it all the time, and you do too. You hear people saying, "Oh, people don't like change. People don't like to change." Yet, if we were to ask you, what do you feel about change in general? You would say, "Well, I'm a change agent. I embrace change because change is cool." Well, it's like my kids are all my kids are above average, right? Like in Lake Watergun, right? All children are above average. There's no such a thing, right? Because we're deluding ourselves thinking, the problem is everybody else who doesn't want to change. I'm okay with change. The reality is everybody thinks the same way. Okay? So let's think about resistance in a different way. Now, here's the new framework. Okay? It goes something like this. Let me introduce this with another concept from the world of statistics. In statistics, in fact, the whole scientific method is based on one premise, one very simple premise, and that is that we develop a hypothesis, and then we go and collect data or information to support the hypothesis, and then we say, the hypothesis must be correct, and then we say that we accept the hypothesis. In fact, the technical definition or the technical term that is used is we fail to reject the hypothesis. We never actually accept the hypothesis as factual. We only say we fail to reject it because we don't have enough evidence to reject it. Make sense?
Yeah.
That's the technical way of looking at this. Well, the opposite is true. If the evidence does not support the hypothesis, then we say we reject the hypothesis. Right? Now, with that in mind, think about change in a similar way. So, we're introducing a new system. We're restructuring the organization. We are going through a merger and acquisition. Whatever the change is, okay? That's the hypothesis. The hypothesis is that the change is good for the organization, right? Otherwise, we wouldn't be doing this. It'd be crazy. So we introduce this change, the hypothesis, and the researcher now is the individual who's going to be impacted by this change. So you put yourself in the role of the researcher. A new change is coming up. You are going to be impacted, and you are now looking for evidence. What evidence are you looking for? Well, evidence that supports a hypothesis, that this change is good. If you don't find enough evidence that the change is good, what are you likely to do? You're going to reject the hypothesis. You're going to reject the change. But if the evidence is there and it's good enough, what's your choice? To either go against that or say, well, it makes sense. Okay, let's do this. It feels good. It looks good. It sounds good. Therefore, it must be good. Did you follow? Okay. So looking at that statistical, model for rejecting or accepting a hypothesis, let's see about change in that same way. Okay. If people are confused, if people feel afraid, if people feel anxiety around the change, if people feel like they're giving up too much, right? Like they're surrendering too much, and that their position of power is being weakened, that their basis of power is being weakened, nobody likes that proposition. Therefore, it follows that people are likely to reject the change if they find themselves in that side of the equation. You follow? The opposite is true. If people feel clear about what the change is about, when the change is about, how the change is going to happen, why, and so on and so forth, right? There's clarity around that. If there's trust around the change and the people leading the change, if people feel a sense of stability, okay, so I understand that, this is changing, but I understand that I can still hold on to this, right? If people get a sense that while they cannot control everything, there are some things that they can control, and that they're okay with that. And if people feel like they are retaining enough power, enough decision-making authority, enough face, if they're retaining enough of that, then they are a lot more likely to accept the hypothesis or to accept the change. You follow? Okay. So the opposite of acceptance is not resistance; it is rejection. In this way of looking at it. And so, what is the practical application of this? Well, what do we do to create acceptance? We give people evidence. We provide evidence, right? We provide evidence to the contrary, or that supports the change as opposed to supporting the assumptions and the beliefs that people have about the change. Right? And what if there was a way to measure that? In fact, there's a way to measure that. We do it for clients, right? And so there's a way to measure these things and to know, okay, people don't feel very comfortable with the change, and therefore they're likely to reject. There are specific things that we can do to either create greater clarity, to create trust, create stability, create a sense of control, or give people a sense that they have enough power, discretionary power within the organization in order to continue to support the change, then they are a lot more likely to accept the notion of change. All right? Now, so just what do you do? Tomorrow, what you can do is start creating greater clarity and understanding with people. Okay, so it's all about communication, but that's not all. That's not all. Develop a sense of trust, and that's why relationship building is so important. A lot of people may be extremely good technical managers, project managers, whatever, right? Very good in their field, but they may not be creating relationships within the organization. That is important because that creates trust. Okay. Number 3, be transparent. Be transparent with people. Again, that fosters a sense of trust, a sense of we believe you. We believe in this thing. By the way, when people trust you and when people know that you're not hiding anything, and when people feel high regard for you, they're a lot more likely to go at risk for you, at risk with you, even in the absence of a clear strategy. Okay? In fact, let me recommend one book that I think you're going to enjoy. The Speed of Trust by Stephen M.R. Covey, the son of Stephen Covey, that just passed away some months ago. Stephen M.R. Covey, The Speed of Trust. And the subtitle of the book is called, or it says, The One Thing That Changes Everything. Try it. When you develop trust with people, that is the one thing that changes everything. There's no faster way to create change than to create trust. Okay? All right. Number 4, Involve other people in the change. Engage them. Don't just ask them, actually listen to them. Now, this takes time, of course, and it also takes relationships. It takes trust, right? So if you go to people and say, "Hey, we're going to do this. We want you to help us, develop this strategy for implementation." Maybe they don't have a say in the vendor. Maybe they don't have a say in the solution that's going to be implemented. But maybe they do have, or can have a say on how the implementation is going to work. Okay. So involving others becomes extremely, extremely important. And there's all kinds of things that you can do here. All right, so any questions on this framework, folks? All right, let's now discuss briefly. So why? So why is this so important? Early on, we illustrated the concept by having you write your first name. Okay. So let me go back to that concept of the transition curve. Anytime you lose a change, you're going to see a dip in the organizational performance of that organization. Okay? So it follows that, again, what we are interested in here is in managing the depth and the width of that transition curve. That's really what change management is all about. Okay? Is about managing that transition curve. Now, a good change management strategy, therefore, should again help you shorten and make this dip more shallow. Got it? So if this is the typical decrease in organizational performance during times of transition, then this is the managed transition, and there's a huge difference. Okay? Why? Because managed transitions really can decrease the disruption and the low productivity that arise from most implementations. Okay? Number two, a managed transition should reduce the total cost of implementation. Why? Because there's less disruption, and also because you can close projects faster. Number three, because you can close projects faster, then you can achieve your ROI faster as well. And therefore, if you use the principle of compound interest, you're saving a lot of money. A lot of money. And number four, a managed transition, if you do it well, should also help you develop additional capacity, internal capacity for managing change in the future. And that's the whole idea. And that's what we do with clients. You can do that too. You can do that too. How? Well, we have a methodology. But there are methodologies out there. If you already use one, if you already have one, please use it. If you don't have one, please look for one. This is not the end-all be-all. I think we're better than everybody else, but that's my opinion, right? Our methodology looks very simple. You prepare the organization and the leaders for the change. Number two, you aid the implementation process by building awareness, generating acceptance, and enabling action. And number three, integrating the change into the organization so that the behaviors change and so that the change stays in place for a long time. I worked early on, actually about 7 years ago, on a major lean transformation project for a global company. And we discovered very quickly that because of the lack of good change management practices, they were making some great progress early on. But about 2 or 3 months after the implementation, the metrics were going down again. Almost, not quite, but almost to previous levels. The answer is right here. We're not really integrating the change into the fabric, into the psyche of the organization. And that's what we need. Inherent in all of this, of course, is what we call the behavior change process. The behavior change process says that for people to become invested in a change, they first need to become aware of what the change is. What the change, why the change, how the change, who the change, when the change. And all of those good questions, right? But that's not enough. They have to then come to grips with the change and the implications of the change. They have to accept. Acceptance is not the end-all be-all. A lot of change management strategies say that's the goal, what they call buy-in. Okay? We say that's good, that's necessary, that's required. You cannot play if you don't have acceptance. But that is not the end goal. conviction has to happen in order for actual behavior change to occur. And that's what the SmartChange strategy is all about, is to